Let's be honest, your children make us look better, my mother said, taking my brother's children to Portaventura instead of mine. I paid for everything. I let them smile for the camera. But when they returned, the magic was gone. Let's be honest, your children make us look better, my mother repeated, scrolling through the photos of the Portaventura trip that I had paid for. She said it so calmly, as if it were a simple marketing decision, as if my daughter, Sophia, weren't sitting right next to me, watching each photo flash across her grandmother's phone screen without appearing in any of them. They're just more photogenic, she added with a smile, taking a sip of tea. Plus, they behave better in public. You know how Sophia gets. I looked down at Sophia, still clutching the sparkly Minnie Mouse backpack she had chosen 6 months ago, when we were supposed to go together. Her smile was gone, replaced by that quiet confusion only children feel when they know something is wrong but don't understand why. I thought we were all going together, Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer because I had thought so too. 3 months earlier my mother called, saying she wanted to do something special for the grandchildren. I had just received my Christmas bonus, so when she asked if I could help with the expenses, I said yes. Of course I did. I transferred the money that same night. The tickets, the all-inclusive hotel, everything. She told me she would surprise the kids by taking them all together. But 2 weeks later she said there weren't enough rooms. Next time, she promised. I believed her. I even told Sophia it was okay that we would go later, that maybe Grandma just needed to spend some time with the other grandchildren first. But I didn't know they had gone without her until I saw the first photo online. There they were, my brother's children, Lucas and Martina, in front of Sesame Street Land. My father was wearing Mickey Mouse ears. My mother was holding a Chewo bigger than her face. The caption read Family Magic. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I understood what I was seeing. I thought maybe they had photoshopped the pictures, that they were images pulled from the internet. But no, they had really gone. Without Sophia. Without me. And I had paid for it all. You know, Lucas and Martina are just easier, my mother said, setting the phone on the table. They don't complain. They don't make a fuss. Sophia blinked rapidly, looking into my eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the mug against the wall, though every part of me wanted to. I just stood there numb. Because when you've given everything, your money, your time, your trust, and they still choose someone else, that's when the magic dies. And when they returned, they brought back souvenirs but left the damage behind. I wish I could say that was the first time they treated my daughter like she was invisible. But it wasn't. It started years ago. First it was small things. Birthday cards that got lost in the mail. Christmas gifts that were accidentally left behind. My brother's children, Lucas and Martina, received bikes and tablets. Sophia got a €10 gift card and a plastic bracelet from the dollar store. She's not as close to us, my mother said once. They live farther away. It's hard to create bonds like that. We live 30 minutes away. I should have known better. But like a fool, I kept giving. I kept showing up. I kept paying. When my brother lost his job, who do you think paid his mortgage for 6 months? When Martina needed braces, who do you think offered to help with the down payment? Because insurance is so complicated these days. And Portaventura, that wasn't even the beginning. It was just the moment they stopped pretending. I didn't grow up with money. I worked myself to the bone for what I have now. 2 jobs. No vacations. Saving every penny. I built a life for Sophia and me from scratch after her mother left us. And I swore I would never let her feel like she was lacking anything. But somehow, around my family, she was always the one left out, and I was always the one left holding the bill. You're doing well, my mother would say, as if that made it acceptable. You can afford it. But I barely could. Yet every time I sent money, every time I said yes to another favor, another excuse, another "we just need a little help," I chipped away at what little piece I had left. My mother had perfected the guilt trip. You know, we're not getting any younger. We just want the kids to have good memories. You wouldn't want your niece and nephew to miss out, would you? But it was never really about them. It was about appearances, image, control. My brother Diego played his part perfectly. Lazy but charming. Always broke. Always trying. He could show up at family dinners wearing designer sneakers and then after dessert turn to me and say, "Think you could cover the electricity bill this month? Things are tight." And I always said yes. Because if I didn't, then I was the selfish one. You don't know how to be a team player. You only think about yourself. Family comes first. Unless it was my daughter. Then family forgot how to spell her name. The week before the PortAventura trip, I noticed something odd. Sophia had made a drawing for her grandma Carmen. It was her and her cousins riding the rides holding hands. She folded it carefully and asked me to mail it. I did. It never made it to the fridge. When I later asked my mother about it, she just said, "Oh, that. I think I threw it away." I didn't know what it was. She had thrown it away. Sophia's face didn't show any emotion. But that night I found the same drawing redrawn taped to her bedroom wall. "I'll keep it," she said quietly. "Since Grandma didn't want it." I should have set the entire fridge on fire. But the real slap in the face came a week after the trip, when I was still trying to act normal, pretending that maybe it had all been a misunderstanding. We were at Sunday dinner. I took Sophia, thinking that maybe, just maybe, we could talk, that my mother would explain something, that she might even apologize. Instead, she looked at Sophia, then turned to my brother Diego and said she looks so thin. You should have seen how healthy Martina looked in those PortAventura pictures. The camera loved her. And then she laughed. Right in front of us. Sophia didn't say a word. She just picked at her food. I clenched my jaw so tight my molars ached. And Diego, he added, "Well, Martina has that special glow. Good genes." And he winked at me like it was a private joke. That was the moment something in me snapped. Not loudly. Not visibly. But deep down something shifted. A slow, cold fury, the kind that waits in silence. They thought I wouldn't fight. That I'd do what I always did. Swallow the insult, sign the check, and nod. But this time would be different. It happened during Sunday dinner. An ordinary Sunday. The last one I would attend. Sophia and I had barely walked in when I sensed something was off. My mother gave us a curt nod. My father didn't even look up from the TV. And Diego was already eating, laughing with my mother at some inside joke. No one greeted Sophia. No one even pulled out a chair for her. I had to do it myself. We sat. We ate in silence while they talked around us. They didn't ask how school was. They didn't ask how I was. They didn't ask anything at all. And then my mother, with a sweet smile, said from across the table, "You know, I'm still not over how well Diego's kids handled PortAventura. They shine in public. Sophia gets so overstimulated." I set my fork down slowly and looked at her. "What did you just say?" My mother blinked as if I had broken some unwritten rule. "I'm just saying she's sensitive. Some kids aren't made for big events. It would have been too much for her anyway. That trip wasn't for everyone." Sophia kept her eyes on her plate. Her knuckles were white from gripping her fork. Diego chuckled. "Well, it's not like she missed much. We had fun without all the extra noise." And there it was. That was the moment. I stood up so fast my chair screeched back and hit the wall. Sophia flinched. My voice was low, but it cut like a blade. "You think this is funny, Diego? Man, we're just saying." "No. You're not saying anything. You're laughing at my daughter. You're mocking a child. A child who was promised a trip. A child who's drawing you through in the trash." My mother opened her mouth. "I didn't throw. Don't lie to me." I cut her off sharply. She saw the trash. Her crumpled drawing. "You didn't even have the decency to pretend to care." "Keep your voice down," my father muttered. I didn't answer, moving away from the table. Enough with the quiet. Enough with the nodding. Enough with the smiling while I'm being gutted in front of my own daughter. "You're overreacting," Diego said, rolling his eyes. "Seriously, it was my kid's trip. You weren't even." "Oh, I wasn't?" I said, laughing. "Laughing for real this time. You mean the trip I paid for? The one you took your kids on while mine stayed home with a backpack and a broken heart? Yeah, that one." My mother crossed her arms. "It was our idea. You offered to help. And your niece and nephew needed it more." I turned to her slowly. "Needed it more?" I repeated, stunned. "It's just that they're easier to love," she said, as if that made any sense. The room went silent. Even Diego's smirk faltered. Sophia dropped her fork. I looked down at her. Her eyes were wide, brimming with tears. Something inside me exploded. "You know what?" I said, my voice shaking with rage. "I'm done. I'm done pretending this is a family. I'm done pretending your favoritism is anything less than abuse. I'm done paying for your smiles and getting contempt in return. You're being dramatic, Diego said. I walked around the table slowly until I stood directly behind him. I paid your mortgage, your vacation, your car battery last winter. You never once said thank you. He stood up, puffing out his chest. No one asked you to play the hero. You chose to. You're right, I said. And I chose wrong. I turned to my mother. You always told me family helps family. So where were you when I was raising Sophia alone? Where were you when I was skipping meals so she could have shoes for school? Where were you? We offered help, she said defensively. You never accepted it. The only thing you offered was judgment and silence. My father finally stood. This is ridiculous. We're trying to have a nice dinner. You had your dinner. I cut him off. You had your photo op. You had your fake fairy tale in Portaventura. I looked around the table one last time. And now this is over. I took Sophia's hand. We're leaving. Diego snorted. Oh please. You'll be back. You always come back. I turned to him. This time I didn't reach for my wallet. I reached into my jacket, pulled out a file and dropped it on the table. My mother gasped when it hit. What is that? She asked. Receipts, I answered. Every euro I've paid for this family. Every bill I've covered. Every favor I've done. On Monday a copy goes to my lawyer. Just in case you come looking for me again. Diego took a step forward. Are you threatening us now? No, I answered. I'm protecting my daughter. I looked at my mother one last time. And if you ever tell her again that she's not enough, I leaned in, lowering my voice close enough so she could hear my breath. I will not let you hurt her again. Ever. And I walked out. With my daughter. With my pride. With nothing left to give them. And no intention of ever coming back. The silence that followed was almost louder than the shouting. For 2 whole days my phone remained completely silent. No calls. No texts. No manipulative voicemails designed to guilt me. Just silence. And honestly it was like breathing air after drowning. That night I took Sophia for ice cream. We sat on a bench in Retiro Park, the soft spring breeze rustling her ponytail. She meticulously picked the chocolate chips off her cone one by one. Are we ever going back? She asked. I looked at her. The freckles that dusted her nose. The tiny scar on her chin from when she fell off her scooter. The strongest heart I'd ever known. Sitting there, wondering if she'd have to keep being surrounded by people who made her feel like a second choice. No, I said firmly. We are not going back. And I meant it. For the first time in my life I didn't care what it might cost. Of course they couldn't stay quiet for long. On the 3rd day the onslaught began. First it was my father. A short cold text, we need to talk. Come to dinner. I didn't reply. Then came the call from my mother. Her voice all fake sugar with a rotten center. You overreacted at that dinner. It was supposed to bring us closer. You embarrassed everyone. I hung up. She called again. And again. On the 5th time she left a voicemail. Her tone suddenly wounded. I didn't mean what I said about Sophia. I was just tired. You know how I get when I'm tired. But you leaving like that after everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me. I almost laughed out loud. The manipulation was so familiar it was pathetic. Like watching a magician repeat the same trick long after the audience has gone home. Then it was Diego. A text, no greeting. So this is how it ends. You're ignoring your own family over a tantrum. Grow up already. Then another text. Mom's been crying all day. Hope you're happy. And then we were counting on you for June. The kids don't understand why Uncle Mateo disappeared. To that last message I did reply. Good. Let them feel it. A week passed. Then 2. Every day, I woke up expecting to feel that old knot in my chest. The guilt. The pressure to fix it all. But it never came. Instead I felt peace. Sophia smiled more. Asked more questions. Slept through the night without waking up from those strange anxiety-ridden dreams. She didn't ask about her cousins anymore. One night she asked if we could go to the bookstore. I said yes. We left with 5 books, hot chocolate, and a new notebook she picked out specifically for writing spells. We were making new memories. Our memories. Not bought. Not forced. Not filtered through people who only smiled when it suited them. But as always, peace had a price. In mid-April, my mother showed up at my work. She was waiting by the entrance as I left for lunch. Her hair perfectly coiffed. Her purse clutched tight like a Bible. Her eyes were red. But not from crying. From fury. "I need 5 minutes," she hissed. I didn't answer, moving to walk past her. She grabbed my arm. I stopped. "Do you realize what you're doing to this family?" she whispered angrily. "You're tearing it apart. And for what?" "For a trip to PortAventura." I turned to her slowly. "No," I answered. "For a lifetime of being treated like a walking wallet. For making my daughter feel invisible. For telling me to my face that your precious golden boy's kids are better looking than mine." People around us started to stare. My mother lowered her voice to a dangerous whisper. "You're making a scene." I leaned into her. "You haven't seen a scene yet. But keep pushing me, and I'll give you one that will make Christmas dinner look like a prayer meeting." She recoiled as if I'd slapped her. "I raised you," she said quietly. I didn't answer. "You didn't raise me at all. You raised Diego." I survived. And with that I walked away. A few days later I received an email. It was from a joint account. My parents and Diego. The subject line read, "Family discussion." Inside was a PDF. A spreadsheet. Literally. They had itemized every expense I had ever helped with. They called it joint contributions of support. At the end a note. "We believe it's time to recalibrate expectations. We propose a monthly assistance structure so we all have clarity going forward." I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes, utterly stunned. They weren't apologizing. They were invoicing me. Like I was a tenant. Or an employee underperforming. I replied with a single sentence. "My only contribution now is distance. Invoice me for that." And I blocked every number. Every email. Every notification I could. A week later I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name. Inside, printed photos from the PortAventura trip. One was of Diego and his kids holding Mickey Mouse balloons. Another of my mother hugging Martina. And a photo of the whole family. My family. In front of the castle. With an empty space right where Sophia and I should have been. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, a single sentence. "This could have been us." I grabbed a lighter from the drawer, went outside, and burned every single one of those photos. Sophia watched from the window. And I swear to God, she smiled. A month later I got the last message. It was from my brother's wife Natalia. The one who never spoke. Never caused trouble. Never looked me in the eye unless absolutely necessary. It was a photo of Martina and Lucas. They were standing in front of a homemade cake, covered in poorly spread frosting.
No de Kerastens.
The caption simply read, "It's not the same without you." I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. Finally, they were feeling it. The emptiness I'd left. The weight I'd carried for them for years had finally landed in their hands. And it was heavy. The funny thing about silence is once you taste it, it becomes addictive. There were no more obligatory dinners. No more cold stares across the table. No more waiting for them to show up smiling with their hands out, my credit card at the ready. Our weekends now belonged to Sophia and me. And slowly, quietly, we began to build something new.
No PortAventura.
But last Saturday we went to Lake Sanabria. Just the two of us. She brought a book. I brought sandwiches. Sophia read aloud for an hour, while ducks fought over crumbs. At one point she looked up and said, "This is better than any castle." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was too tight. Because for the first time, I understood she wasn't just saying it to make me feel better. She meant it. She didn't need a man in a mouse suit or manufactured fireworks. She just needed a father who saw her. And now she had one. Do I regret what I did? Not for a second. Let them call me cold. Let them say I walked away. They should be grateful I didn't do it sooner. Sometimes I think back to all those years of paying and paying, hoping one day they'd say thank you. Hoping they'd finally see my daughter. They never did. Sometimes silence becomes a prison. I chose to break free. They're still your family. They were. But they treated me like an ATM and my daughter like a footnote. Blood doesn't excuse cruelty. Respect does. And they lost both. You could have handled it better. Probably. But they crossed every line first. I didn't explode over a single comment. I exploded after a decade of abuse. I chose to set boundaries. I chose my daughter. To everyone who related, you are not selfish for walking away. You are not wrong for wanting peace. You are not a wallet with feelings. You are a person. And you have the right to stop pouring yourself into people who never noticed you were bleeding. Sophia and I are good. Really good. She drew a picture of us in a tent under a tree, and underneath she wrote, "This is my safe place." And that is the only family portrait I'll ever need. Frame that. Let them have PortAventura. We have something better. Peace, freedom, and each other. And this time no one is taking that away from us. Ever. Update. Responding to Reddit after the controversy. Hi Reddit. I didn't expect my post to go viral. I wrote it to vent, but you guys gave me something I didn't know I needed. Clarity, validation, and the confirmation that I'm not alone. To everyone who sent kind messages, thank you. Sophia read some of your comments and smiled. That meant the world. Here's my response to a few things you brought up. You were too harsh. Maybe. But I didn't raise my voice without reason. I stayed silent for years, paying, enduring, hoping they'd finally see my daughter. They never did. Sometimes silence becomes a prison. I chose to break it. They're still your family. They were. But they treated me like an ATM, and my daughter like a footnote. Blood doesn't justify cruelty. Respect does. And they lost both. You could have handled it better. Probably. But they crossed every line first. I didn't explode over a single comment. I exploded after a decade of abuse. I chose to set boundaries. I chose my daughter. To everyone who related, you are not selfish for walking away. You are not wrong for wanting peace. You are not a wallet with feelings. You are a person. And you have the right to stop pouring yourself into people who never noticed you were suffering. Sophia and I are good. Really good. She drew a picture of us in a tent under a tree and wrote underneath it, "This is my safe place." And that is the only family portrait I will ever need.